Hi everyone, welcome to the Foreign Fork, where we are cooking one meal from every country in the world. Today we're doing a Chilean dessert that's a little bit of a combination between some other cultures as well. It's going to be interesting. It's a cake roll with Dulce de Leche filling. So keep watching. So to start off, you're going to need 5 eggs and you're going to separate the whites from the yolks. So I have 2 bowls here. I'm going to crack each of my eggs and I'm going to put the whites in. If you have a stand mixer, put it in the bowl of your stand mixer. If you don't, just put it in a different bowl that you can use with whipping. Okay, so once you have all of your whites in this bowl, and I'm going to turn them on high speed. First, I'm going to whip them until they get to be soft peaks. I'm going to turn off the mixer for a second, add 2 tablespoons of sugar, and then I'm going to continue whipping them until they get to be stiff peaks. Now in this other bowl, we're going to work with the egg yolks. So you're going to need 3/4 of a cup of super fine sugar. I have not bought super fine sugar, so I'm going to show you how to make your own. I'm going to use normal granulated sugar, and I have a blender, and I'm just going to put this sugar in the blender for just maybe a couple rotations. It's going to be super quick, and then it's going to turn our sugar into super fine sugar. Don't let it for too long or else it'll become powdered sugar. Super fine sugar. Now you can take your 3/4 of a cup of super fine sugar and pour it into your egg yolks. And then you're going to use electric beaters and beat this for about 3 to 5 minutes. It's going to actually, after a couple of minutes, it's going to start to be really, really fluffy with the egg yolks and sugar together. So you can see that our mixture has become a really pale yellow. That's the correct color and consistency that we want. So now we're going to add in 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla and 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and then I'm going to use my mixers and mix it again. Just for a minute. You're going to take these egg whites that we have whipped earlier that are still at their stiff peak stage and put them into your egg yolk mixture. If any of you remember my tiramisu video, you'll remember me talking about how to handle whipped egg whites when you're folding them into batter. But just as a reminder, make sure that you fold them really, really gently because you don't want to deflate your egg whites. You want to keep them as fluffy as possible for as long as possible when you're folding them into your batter. All right, so you can see that our batter is really fluffy right now from all of those egg whites that we just added, which means that it's time to add the flour. So I have 1 cup of sifted cake flour that I'm going to put in here. I pre-sifted it. And we're making a sponge cake, which is a little bit different than a normal cake because sponge cakes don't use any type of leavening agent like a baking powder or anything like that. Instead, they rely on the egg whites in the recipe to act as a leavening agent. Okay, so once your batter is all done, it's time to prep the pan that you're gonna put it in. Instead of using a cake pan, you're gonna use a baking sheet. So I Crisco the bottom of the baking sheet. I lay parchment paper on top of that Criscoed bottom. I Crisco again on top of the parchment paper, and then I coat the whole thing in flour. And then I pour the batter into that pan. I have my oven preheated to 350 degrees, and I'm gonna bake my cake for about 15 to 20 minutes until the toothpick comes out clean. When the cake is done cooking in the oven, I'm gonna remove the pan from the oven, and then immediately I'm going to take the parchment paper and lift the cake out of the cookie sheet that it's in, and roll it up into a towel, and then I'm gonna let it cool in the circular shape, so that way when it's time to re-roll the cake, it will hold its shape better. So my cake has cooled for about an hour, which means that I unrolled it from the dish towel that it was laying in, and now it kind of has it's got some muscle memory. It's gonna wanna roll back up again, so it's gonna be a lot easier to roll it up without it cracking. So now I have these cans of Dulce de Leche. I use normally about 1.5 cans. That's because I like Dulce de Leche, and that's for the filling and for the decorating part on top. So I'm gonna take this Dulce de Leche and just spread it as a thin layer across the whole top of this cake. Now this cake is called Brazo de Reina in Chile, which, if my Spanish minor from college serves me correctly, I think means the arm of the queen. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but it's a dessert that is popular in Chile because it's a rendition of a Swiss roll. but it has a Chilean filling, which is the Dulce de Leche. So that's kind of why I was interested in making it, was because I was really interested in the fusion of the cultures there and how one culture inspired another. Also because Chile has a lot of immigrants from Europe in the country, so I thought that that was really interesting. All right, so now I have 1 can of Dulce de Leche that I made a thin layer of Dulce de Leche across the whole inside of the cake. And now I'm going to re-roll the cake into the same shape it was in when I had it in the dish towel. So really carefully, if you've ever watched the Great British Baking Show, Paul Hollywood will tell you you need a tight roll on your Swiss roll. So I'm making sure to keep a tight roll. Then once your cake is rolled up, put it with the seam side down. And now you're gonna take your other Dulce de Leche and spread it across the top. I don't know if this part is completely necessary. I like to make the cake, I like to eat the cake. Decorating the cake is the hard part in the middle. Okay, once you get a nice coating of Dulce de Leche on the top of this, I have some reserved coconut here. And I'm just gonna take this coconut and kind of lay it across, kind of like pat it in so that it all sticks to the Dulce de Leche and coats the outside of the cake. This is optional. You don't have to do this. I love coconut, so I'm gonna do this. But if you do not like coconut, you can either leave your cake as is with like a plain top, or you can just coat it in Dulce de Leche. All right, our Brazo de Reina is done. Look at that tight roll on it. Paul Hollywood would be proud of me, I think. Okay, now I can just take a bite. The texture of this cake is so fun because of the egg whites that are in it. I love that, and I love mixing the typical Swiss roll type cake with the filling of the Chilean Dulce de Leche. I love this cake. I think it's so fun. It's an awesome, awesome dessert to bring to a party. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you want the full recipe with written instructions, you can visit my blog, www.forandfork.com. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to check out all of the other videos on my channel. I'll see you guys soon.